But Jenna, awesome. Why are you voting for Trump?
There's a lot of reasons why I'm voting for Trump. But I am actually wondering why you're voting for Kamala.
Okay, yeah, of course. Because she has better character and she has better policy. So starting on character, she's not a rapist, she's not a 34 count felon, she's not a fraudster, or she's not an election denier, she's not a religious persecutor, she didn't want to ban all new Muslim entries into our country, she didn't infringe upon the basic rights of all 170 million American women and girls by electing 3 justices to the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, right? She didn't try to coup an election and rig the outcome of an election like Trump did in 2020, right? She also hasn't sexualized her daughter, she hasn't boasted about like grabbing women by the P word. She hasn't boasted about walking into the changing rooms of half-naked teenage girls. She hasn't literally raped a woman. So there's character about policy. She has policy that's going to make the average American better off, and she knows how she's going to implement it, and she knows how much it'll cost. Trump has policy that will disproportionately benefit the ultra-wealthy. It's going to cost trillions of dollars, and he has no clue how he's going to pay for it.
Interesting. Okay. Sorry, I just was curious on why you thought she was the better candidate. I disagree with some of those things. There was one thing that was touched on in another conversation it was something you mentioned about the betterment of the VA benefits.
Yeah, so Biden and Harris passed the PACT Act that invested $800 million, thank you for the money gun, Joey, into expanding VA healthcare benefits to provide for over 1 million new veterans that weren't considered for care prior. But yo, real quick, Laura, thank you for the $25 on PayPal. I genuinely appreciate you. Thank you so much, Laura. Let's get at least 300 W's for Laura in that chat right now for the $25 on PayPal. That means the world to me. Thank you, Laura. So go ahead, yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead,
so even though that was passed and you're saying that $800 million or whatever the amount of money was donated to help the VA veterans, I disagree that it's done literally anything for this country. As my husband being a veteran and having to use the VA system for a long time with lots of health issues, I disagree that it's literally done anything for our veterans.
What did the PACT Act do?
What was your question? Sorry.
So you're saying that the PACT Act didn't do anything. What did the PACT Act do? What was
It hasn't helped me. It hasn't helped my husband. It hasn't helped my brother. It hasn't helped my grandfather. It hasn't
So what
helped
was the
literally
PACT Act
anybody.
supposed to do?
Exactly. I'm not sure what it was supposed to do because it didn't do shit.
Okay, Jenna, see, there's your first issue. I call this willful, harmful ignorance. How do you know that the PACT Act didn't benefit the VA healthcare system when you don't even know what it was designed to do?
Well, that's exactly why I'm asking questions. I'm not 100% on the policies. I don't really deep dive into politics like that. I don't know what
So
all
the PACT
they're
Act
supposed to
invested
do.
$800 million into expanding the healthcare benefits that it already provides to 1 million new veterans. The reason it probably didn't benefit your husband, your grandpa, etc., is because they weren't one of those 1 million new veterans that specifically like extended service to. Okay, like the PACT Act extended service to veterans that got like burns from burn pits overseas, were exposed to toxic or hazardous materials, right? And that probably didn't apply to your husband or your grandfather, right? So just because it didn't apply to your husband or your grandfather doesn't mean that it didn't impact the VA healthcare services.
It's just interesting that something is supposed to help, the majority of veterans and I'm
No,
not
it's
gonna
supposed
go
to help
all-
1 million new veterans. That's not a majority
okay.
of veterans.
Okay, that's fine. It's just it's interesting that it's supposed to help veterans like that, and I don't want to
didn't.
deep dive into all. It really didn't. I disagree with that wholeheartedly, just because I see a lot of veterans.
I just
day
told
in
you
and
the
day out.
veterans. I just told you the veterans that it was supposed to benefit. Who are those veterans?
No, okay, you said a million new veterans or something like that along those lines. So
Or what specific veterans?
you said burn victims, right?
Yeah. So what would your evidence be that the PACT Act did not expand benefits to veterans that had burns from toxic burn pits overseas?
Okay, so as a healthcare worker, we have a lot of people that come in. We see veterans that use the VA insurance that don't get tons of coverage or any coverage based on their combat wounds, especially burns, things like that. It's just working with it day to day and seeing the amount of healthcare that we have to try and set people up with aftercare and things like that, it hasn't done much for them. They have to jump through so many hoops in order to get anything covered under the VA insurance. It's ridiculous.
Okay, would you be able to indicate a source to me stating that the PACT Act was ineffective and did not actually benefit veterans? Because your anecdotal experiences are essentially useless, okay? All right, so I feel like we need an additional source here that would like justify the claim that you're making.
Okay, I've gotcha. So I know that me just being one person working in healthcare, it's going to be my own experience and what I've experienced working with veterans day in and day out. And it's not going to be like this big impactful thing. I don't have a resource to give you. Like I said, I don't deep dive into politics like that, but just living as an American day to day, it should show some impact. Even me as just one person helping other people, I feel like
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
If you're a woman living in Colorado or California, where the abortion laws have been consistent before and after Roe v. Wade was overturned, does that give you good reason to say that Trump overturning Roe v. Wade didn't do anything because you haven't seen it in your personal life?
Well, no, I guess you'd be correct there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like overturning Roe v. Wade directly impacted 1 out of every 3 women of reproductive age here at home in America. But if you go into the states of Colorado or California, you're going to meet millions of women who it didn't impact.
Okay. Abortion's a whole other topic.
Well,
that
just
I
a
have
conceptual analogy, right? The conceptual analogy there was that, yeah, we can implement policy that really does affect a lot of American citizens while not personally affecting you or people that you may know in your own personal life.
Okay. I'm sorry. Like I said, I don't deep dive into politics like that, but if you're looking at each candidate and versus what they did within her 3.5 years in office and whatnot, and the 4 years that Trump had to run this country like a business, like it always has been.
Ran it like a failing business. He increased the debt twice as much as Biden and Harris did. He
Disagree.
only sent policy. Okay, so you disagree with the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget?
No, I disagree with the fact that he put Americans into more debt.
Okay, well, yeah, he did, right? Because he added $8.6 trillion to our debt. Meanwhile, Biden and Harris added $4.6 trillion. 4.8 of that was non-COVID related for Trump, and 2.2 trillion of that was non-COVID related for Biden and Harris. That's a fact that you seemingly can't really disagree with.
No, I do disagree with that. I feel like there is a lot of things that Biden has endorsed, such as like the war with Ukraine and things like that, that he's literally given American money away to support another country that should, not saying that it shouldn't be supported, but I'm saying that if we're going to run our country and make it I'm sorry, I'm like I said, I don't really deep dive into politics like this, but when you're giving away money to like Ukraine per se, when our country is already a struggling country, not saying we shouldn't support Ukraine, but why would you give away so much money to a country that is already struggling and put our country more into debt just by supporting like the war with Ukraine and things
Actually,
like that?
our country didn't go more into debt because of our support for the war in Ukraine. That was a reallocation of already expended DoD funds. So there was no additional debt accrued, right, with what we sent to Ukraine. But the reason we're supporting Ukraine is because of the Budapest Memorandum. We're contractually obligated to do so from a denuclearization agreement we made with them in the 90s, stating if they give up their nukes, we'll protect them if they're invaded. But I just want to like reference back to the fact that you're telling me you disagree with like the CBO. You disagree with a Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, which is a bipartisan congressional committee when we're talking about how much debt Trump and Biden and Harris added. What good reason do you have to disagree? Like, can you give me a source indicating that those figures are wrong?
Like I said, no, I can't. Like I said, I don't.
So what reason do you have to disagree? Like, listen.
Because if you're looking at
A lot of people treat politics like the fucking NFL, okay? They treat it like a sports league. They don't treat it like it actually impacts our day-to-day lives. They don't treat it like these are things that we can measure, that we could observe, that we could test upon. And you just treat it like your own little sandbox where you could say anything and it just makes it true. Unfortunately, that's wrong. I value facts over feelings, and seemingly you value feelings over facts. But there's no other way to vote for Trump. You got to dispel logic. You got to dispel reason. You got to dispel empirical facts. And then you might be able to conceive of some reason to vote for the dictator under Trump.